board member. And Lisa, are you ready?
I am ready.
I state your name.
I, Lisa Young,
Do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States and of the state of Washington,
do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States and of the state of Washington,
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and will, to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability,
and will, to the best of my judgment, skill, and ability,
truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially perform the duties of the office
truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially perform the duties of the office
of Skamania School District School Director, position number 4,
of the office of Skamania School District School Director, position 4,
in and for Skamania County, Washington, as such duties are prescribed by law.
in and for Skamania County, Washington, as such duties are prescribed by law.
Congratulations. Welcome
you.
to the Board of Directors.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, several people have asked questions about the process that the board uses in soliciting and securing applications for board of director positions that have become vacant due to the resignation of sitting board members. Over the past 4 months, we have had 3 director resignations. The first was Bob Holland, who submitted his resignation at the end of the September board meeting. We immediately posted the position on the website and published it in the newspaper. We received 1 application. We scheduled the interview and appointment for the October board meeting. During that board meeting, Beth DeSimone complained this wasn't sufficient time to attract candidates, and the final notice in the newspaper was on the closing date for the applications. In fact, she abstained from voting because of her concerns. We took her concerns to heart, and that is why we changed the process. We now announce a resignation and formally post the position at the next board meeting following the resignation. Further, we will keep the board position posted for at least 4 weeks to allow time for word to get out in the community and to post in the Skamania Pioneer for 3 consecutive weeks. The goal being to attract candidates. At that October board meeting, Donald Collins was voted to replace Bob Holland. Since Bob Holland resigned too late to be removed from the ballot, his name was listed and it garnered the majority of the votes. Subsequently, since Bob Holland no longer resided in the district and therefore was ineligible to serve as a board member, and Donald Collins was listed as not an active board member, the district was down to 2 board members. A requirement of the state of Washington states that a majority of the full board, meaning 3 board members, must vote for a director to be appointed. Because we didn't have the minimum number of directors to make an appointment, we followed state law and referred to the Educational Service District 112 Board of Directors to make the appointment. The ESD board interviewed Donald Collins and Nicole Lavoie and unanimously appointed Don Collins on December 14th. That meant that there were now the required 3 members on the Skamania School Board to make a board member appointment. In addition, at the conclusion of the October board meeting, Leslie Robb submitted her resignation. The original plan was to announce that resignation and formally open the position and begin to seek candidates at the November board meeting and select a replacement board member at the December meeting. However, immediately following the November meeting, Brenda Bush also submitted her resignation. That resulted in there being 2 vacancies on the board. And as you know, soliciting candidates, getting applications and supporting material, and then going through the interview process to pick a candidate is time consuming. And with the impending winter break, people would not be thinking about school during the holidays. For that reason, the decision was made to only have 1 process to be conducted in January. There was a special meeting held on January 19th at which 4 candidates were interviewed. Lisa Young was chosen by unanimous vote of the 3 board members as a new board member. However, no other candidate received a unanimous vote, and therefore that position remains open. The selection process for the remaining board position will be completed in the February board meeting.
Angus, on that note, just a little further explanation, because I had somebody stop me at the grocery store and ask me about our special meeting, and I didn't know how to answer. So I said I would ask tonight. So they asked me that their question was, is it allowed to propose a motion and then vote no on it? Because there was some confusion, I guess, in the community about when we voted at the special meeting for Nicole, that Dawn had seconded my motion and then voted no. And so that's what they were asking about, and I didn't know how to answer that.
A motion is made and it has to be seconded to vote on.
Right.
That's why it was seconded. And then the vote is taken. And you don't have to adhere one way or the other when you make a vote if you've made sure that the motion goes forward to a vote.
Okay, because they were unclear and I couldn't answer. I guess I didn't understand that, you know, if you're making a motion to have something, you know, you're making a motion to appoint somebody or to do something, then you're basically saying you're in favor of it. And then when you go to vote and you vote no, they were just kind of questioning that, and I didn't know how to answer.
Yeah,
I could clarify.
Carrying it forward to a vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, action items. We have 3 minutes to approve. One is the November 16th regular board meeting. And I would be willing to entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the November 16th. Is it 16th? Yeah, 15th.
15th. I move that we approve the minutes from the November 15th board meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the November 15th board meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
I wanted to say aye too, but I hit the wrong button.
Say again?
I wanted to say aye too, but I hit the wrong button. There are all these different video things have different buttons in different places.
Okay. And the next one is the December 16th regular board or special board meeting.
I'll move that we approve the December 16th special board meeting minutes.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the December 16th special board meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. And the final one is reading and approval of the January 19th special board meeting minutes.
I'll move to approve those as well, the January 19th special board meeting minutes.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the special board meeting of January 19th. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Changes or additions to the agenda? Yes.
Yeah, I do have a couple questions. I think some of them are going to be talked about later, so I'll just skip that. I do have an issue with Ralph that I had asked previously about the old bleachers because I knew of somebody at my church that wanted to potentially buy them. And he said that they were disposed of through the construction company. And but then Leslie kind of called him on that through an email. And so the wood material that was taken is now back. And so were they a part of the construction project that they were supposed to be disposed of by the construction company and weren't? Or what happened with those? Because I kind of feel like I was misled and, well, outright lied to.
Well, that situation will be addressed by the remodeling construction update that the ESD gives later in the meeting.
Okay. All right. And
Okay?
then I know we're kind of putting off some of the policy stuff and things that we've talked about previously for workshops, but those keep getting postponed. So another item I would like to add to that is our ESD contract, if we can talk about that, because we're always talking about ESD helping us out and doing this and that, and I would like to know more about that personally. So,
Okay. And we had intentionally put off having workshops until we had a full board.
right.
Because it wouldn't make any sense to have a workshop with 2 board members, even 3 present.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I think that's it that I had on my notes. So thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is public comments. This is a public meeting of the Skamania School Board. We've chosen to host it via Zoom for more equitable access. It's a newer format to us all, so please be patient. The board has a meeting agenda that will be followed. During public comments, the board will not answer questions. It's an opportunity for community members to express to the board their thoughts on current meeting agenda items. The board may ask a follow-up question for clarification, but will not otherwise engage. It is the board's goal during the public comment period to hear persons interested in sharing views about current agenda items. We have 30 minutes set aside for public comment. If you would like to speak, you must add your name to the Zoom chat and wait to be called on. Each comment will be restricted to 3 minutes, and you will be given a 30-second warning of time remaining. When called, you will be unmuted and acknowledged. Please state your name. Please keep your comments concise and respectful. And due to potential legal repercussions, it's requested that individual students, district employees, or volunteers not be named during the public comment. And thank you for your respectful attendance and sharing. And do we have anybody wishing to make a public comment? Yes, we do. For Maria Woodall.
Yes, okay, Maria, you should have access now and your 3 minutes is starting now.
Hello, my name is Maria Woodall, parent of a student at Skamania School, PTO member, previous PTO vice president, and chair of School Garden and Farmers Market Project. Once again, I am here tonight to express my concerns with the lack of transparency from the board and administration of Skamania School. I am going to restate questions that I've asked, many of which multiple times, and have yet to be fully answered. Due to the lack of response and clarification, I have completely lost my trust in school leadership. Number one, why are your meetings still held via Zoom when our other neighboring districts are holding meetings in person? If the school is safe enough for our children, it is safe enough for us to attend a public meeting. Also, you say that it's for equitability purposes. However, most people in our county have really poor internet service, so I don't find that to be equitable at all. You're actually making it so that many people can't attend if their internet service is out. So I'd like you to think about that. Also, number two, I received an email that Dr. Lewis is staying on through the end of the school year alongside Dr. Pruitt, who's returned from medical leave. As you know, is Dr. Lewis receiving compensation? And if so, is that approved by the board? I've attended all the previous board meetings. I have not heard that come up on the agenda. And I did get an email saying through the end of the year. So I'm a little bit concerned how your funds are being allocated and whether or not there's transparency there and who made that decision ultimately. It sounds like the decision was already made, but not through, or at least not in a public meeting where we could listen and hear that decision being made. Also, why was the application period for position number 4 extended? You had applicants by the original deadline of early December of 2021. And it seems to me there was some reversal in the order of appointing your board members. Donald, who had already been appointed to seat number 5, was reappointed before position number 4. Which seems to me to have been strategically done. I don't know the details of it, but I would like some more information, and the lack of transparency again makes this seem very questionable. So again, I would like some clarification on that. Also, I have some new questions. Why were the minutes,
Maria?
okay, your minutes were posted and then taken down from the website and then reposted. So I'd like to know why that happened. What is the selection process for the new superintendent? Why did the school board chair state at the last meeting that he knew of Dr. Pruitt's plans to retire a year ago and this process didn't start sooner? Did the other board members know of Dr. Pruitt's intention to retire, or was that just a conversation between Angus and Ralph? Also, what is the status of the teacher who was placed on administrative leave? Your website has not been updated since 2020-2021 school year. So who are the current teachers and staff at Skamania School?
Maria, your time is up. Thank you.
Okay.
Other public comments? Since there are none, we will continue with the agenda. Reports of officers, boards, and standing committee. Budget status report. First, I'm going to read a note that we got from our finance officer at the Educational Service District. And it says apportionment revenue, which is how much money we get based on the number of students we have, will reflect actual enrollment numbers beginning with January apportionment. At this time, with enrollment numbers through December, there's a slight projected increase for the year, which reflects more K-3 enrollment from the budget of 36 students and to the actual of 40.5 students. Funding for K-3 is slightly higher than the enrollment for grades 4 through 8. Grade 4 through 8 enrollment is down from the budget, budgeting 29 and actual 24.75. Overall enrollment is close to budgeted, but with the higher K-3 enrollment, our apportionment is projecting roughly $15,000 higher, which is very good news. As far as our budget is concerned for the general fund, and remember our budget year starts in September, we have collected 27% of the $1,583,290 budget. And it's interesting that always happens this time of year because the majority of our apportionment from the state, which I was just talking about, comes after February. And we've collected right at 30% from the state. And our expenditures are 27% of the budget. We started the year with a beginning fund balance of $426,493.29, and the current ending fund balance is $394,155.08. So we're doing pretty good this time of year.
Angus, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Where does the TK enrollment count in the apportionment? Are they considered a full student?
Yes,
Ralph, I'm going to change that.
Yes, they are. They're considered a kindergarten student, actually.
They are, so they're included in the K-3 numbers.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
In the capital projects fund, we had a budget of $3 million for revenue, and we've collected $1,848,738. So 61 or 67% total of the budget. We have spent $1,886,472.51, or 59% of the budget. We began the year with a beginning fund balance of $236,032.83. The current ending fund balance is $371,539.59. Now, we have not finalized the remodeling project. When we do, that will be coming much closer together, and that will be happening reasonably soon. And in the transportation fund, we started the year with 102,000 in ending fund balance, which is what we remain because we haven't received anything and we haven't spent anything. Any questions on the budget status report? Okay, capital bills and payables. The first payable is capital projects accounts payable, warrant 193 and 94 totaling $19,986.69. That the majority is going to Mentor Education LLC, which was for the fixtures, furnishings, and equipment in the remodel. And I would be willing to accept a motion to approve.
I will move, we pay the warrants so stated.
Second,
You're
I'm trying to
mutedly
second.
there.
I second.
it's been moved and seconded to approve payment of warrant 193 and 194 totaling $19,986.69. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. The second one is for payroll and accounts payable, warrant numbers 29073 through 29101, totaling $119,115.25. And the larger items on this are payment to ESD 112, $38,503. And there was one other one in here. Saw this. Payment to the Public Utility District for $5,851. And then the largest one is the transfer that we make to Umpqua Bank for the payroll. And that is $41,423.64. So the amount actually of the accounts payable is $77,691.61. And I would be willing to accept a motion.
I move that we pay our payroll and current warrants as stated.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve payment of warrant numbers 29073 through 29101 totaling $119,115.25. And the payroll, and we'll take a separate approval on that. It is gross pay of $55,078.46. Employer paid benefits, $27,739.21. So the total January payroll, $82,817.67. And I would be willing to hear a motion.
I move that we pay the payroll again as stated.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the payroll totaling $82,817.67. Superintendent's report.
Yeah,
Should we not approve that?
Say again?
Go on, Ralph. I think you're going to say the same thing I was.
okay.
Oh,
we
yeah,
good?
we didn't vote. We
Oh, we
didn't do
didn't?
the I
Either.
Yeah, we didn't really vote on
on
either.
the
of them.
last
Or
two.
payroll.
Oh, we didn't? My mistake. Okay. Going back, approving.
This is how you know I'm paying attention.
Approving accounts payable and payroll warrant numbers 29073 through 29101, totaling $119,115.25. Any discussion? All in approval, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. And hearing approving payroll, $55,078.46 of gross pay and $27,739.21 of benefits. Total payroll, $82,867. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much for catching that.
Yeah, good evening. Real quick, the superintendent report. Last couple of years, we've been working hard at improving board procedures. As you know, we have adopted and reviewed all our policies in the last 2 years, and they are on our website. We're going to continue looking at improving our board agenda based on comments. You'll notice tonight we've added the words action items to be real clear between those that are discussion and action. And in the future, at the next meeting, you'll see a separate area that's called consent agenda items, which is standard protocol. Next, Vicki Herdina was going to present tonight on the math, and she is out due to a death in the family, and we'll postpone that one. That's my superintendent report. Thank you.
Unfinished business. First, timber harvest update, and share the student report.
Okay. Hold on. Here we go. I think I reported this on the last one time, but it's been a while, so I decided to review the information and then add to it. We received a total of $173,140.89. It was received, which was proceeds from a harvest on the school property. HFI, which was the group that worked with us on this, said that it seemed like everything went to the school district's favor on the harvest. We had great log prices, a reasonable logging price, and the harvest cut out higher than the DNR crews that we're basing the estimate on. Our science class would like to study the pros and cons of either burning the slash piles or herbicide treatment and follow up with a report to the board in the future. Both would be an expense to the school district. If you choose to do either, it would be best to complete them prior to planting to reduce the risk of damage to the seedlings. HFI recommends spraying to prevent competing vegetation in the first couple of years, but they understand that herbicides can be a sensitive subject, especially around children. Pile burning is mainly aesthetic, but does also create a little more planting space by removing the majority of each pile. There is some wildlife habitat benefits to leaving the piles, and the additional trees that can be planted is fairly negligible. HFI will work with us on these projects if needed. The next required step is that HFI will get the property planted with the Douglas fir seedings January through April. A couple hundred trees for the kids to plant will be set aside and leave in an area open that's easily accessible. After planting, HFI will inspect the seedlings for a couple years and advise if any issues arise. Depending on how the school district's budgeting works, it may be beneficial to set aside 300 to 500 per acre that was harvested for treating competing vegetation or planting additional seedlings if needed. Attached was a student report with some topics to consider. I sent that to HFI to respond, and I'm waiting for their response. I'd like to get your initial thoughts, and we'll bring this back for final decisions at a future meeting.
I personally thought that the staff and students put together a good proposal. I really like the idea of planting a diversity of trees and not just the firs that HFI talked about. So I think also they talk about burning instead of the herbicides. I think that's probably appropriate as well. So I don't know. I'm in favor of what they came up with. I think it was really good and thought out.
I
What do
feel
you guys think?
exactly the same way, and I would love to see the students come before a board meeting and make a presentation.
Yep, for sure.
I agree with what Beth mentioned. We might also want to look at partnering with the Underwood Conservation District. They have their plant sale through, I believe it's the end of February. You can go online. They've sold out on a lot of things, but they deal with native plants, and it wouldn't just be trees. So, you know, we want to see if the students are interested in a variety in that regard as well.
Yeah, we can definitely, that's a good idea, Lisa. Let's get that information to the teachers.
Okay.
Okay, modernization grant update from Construction Service Group, Keith Bloom.
Good evening, and thanks for having me again. I was really hoping this is going to be my last meeting, not because I want to leave y'all, but because I thought we'd have the last little bit of work wrapped up. And in fact, on Wednesday this last week, the last circuit breakers were replaced, or not, installed. Again, supply chain issues. It's dogged us and every other project we're dealing with schools around the state. But the last circuit breakers were installed last Wednesday, and this Wednesday, the HVAC contractor will be back simply to make final connection to 2 little unit heaters, one in the corridor there coming into the gymnasium and one in the boiler room. We've been waiting on getting those 2 little elements heated up. Anyway, that's finished and we're done. Waiting on all final invoices, final statements, but we believe we've got them all captured. And what it shows is we spent 3.8 million in grant funds on the project, and about 138,000 in capital funds on the portables. We were able to do that with the contractor in place. We had shot to we wanted to spend a little less than that, but market prices are market prices, and I'll be doggone if paint wasn't the most expensive thing I've ever seen this year. So anyway, got through it. Contractor, we're all satisfied, looking for final paperwork from him, and I will submit a final board accounting, if you will, for the next meeting. I'd hope to do it here, but waiting on some final invoices. So that said, we're still in very good shape that way. And I honestly probably shouldn't even put my toe in this, but I'd heard Angus's financial report, and I know the money comes in differently than it's spent. So all I can say is we're in a good place, okay? And what will happen now is that final bill for the grant funds will be submitted to OSPI for reimbursement. And that's how that all catches up. So that's in good shape. Let's touch on bleachers real quick. The bleachers were treated as demolition debris. They were removed from the building and scrapped upon removal. I mean, scrapped during removal. The plan at that time was to have them disposed into a dumpster. We had 3 firms ask if they wanted to buy them, purchase them back. We had no interest in that, so they were scrapped. And the dumpster happened to be full at the time, so some of them were left out at the back of the building. And I didn't realize that, and got a phone call one day and said, hey, these things are a safety hazard. So I walked back there and thought I need to get a dumpster to get those out of here. Because indeed they were considered scrap, and it was scrap. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of giving it away to save me the effort of chasing a dumpster. And that's really what boiled down to. However, I knew the individual the boards were given to, and I just said, hey, looks like there's an issue there. So I'm going to ask you to return the boards. But the metal was twisted, rusted. It was cut out to remove the bleachers, and it was treated as scrap, like all of the other major equipment that was removed and replaced in the building. So that's the bleacher story
Okay.
as I honestly know it. Okay.
So are those disposed of then at this point?
Are what disposed of?
You said that you needed to get a dumpster back out there to finish disposing of them. Is that
No,
taken care of?
that was the plan, was to have a dumpster come out. I'm gonna have to spend $1,000, get a dumpster out there, get the remaining scrap into that dumpster. When, as I was walking with an individual there at the school district, I gave it to them, all right, without understanding all of that goes on, because it was scrap. And it was taken care of that way and left. Again, about 2/3 of them went into the original dumpster. Okay, as they were scrapped.
Understood. But so you gave away the boards, but what about the metal framing? You said that was
was all-
rusted and bent and a
when it was-
hazard. So why hasn't that been taken care of
I believe it
promptly?
has. I believe it has been taken.
It has
I
been
believe
now.
it has been
Okay, that
thrown
was my
out.
question.
Yeah,
That was my
it
question.
That was my concern, was it was left on the playground as a safety hazard.
Right.
It became one, and I wanted it. When I was told that, I visited the site the next day. Indeed, we only got halfway through the process of getting rid of it, and that's where I had to come up with renting a dumpster at district cost, hiring a crew, or doing it myself with Ralph, throwing the stuff in. Or in this case, an individual walked with me and said, hey, I'll come get that out of here, and solve the problem. But then it created a problem. So I knew the
But that
individual.
individual only took the boards, not the metal, and that metal is really what was hazardous. So
Yeah,
I
the
mean-
metals, it was all a scrap pile of hazard from my perspective. It was debris. It was demolition debris. It had to go. So that's the way we handled it. And that's the way I handled all the heavy equipment in that building. It was all handled and demolished, scrapped.
well, it obviously wasn't, because it was still sitting there. So
Yes, ma'am,
again,
it
I
was-
will ask my question. Has it been taken care of as of right now?
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
I have a question about the bleachers, I suppose, which will hopefully be relatively simple. When they were removed, was the intention at that time, from when you removed them, was the intention to just basically trash them?
Yes.
Okay.
Demolition debris.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear.
Yes.
And then at the time when they were removed, were they damaged to an extent to where they were still usable as bleachers or not usable as bleachers?
They were unsafe to begin with. Somebody was going to get hurt at one day operating them. By the time they were demolished to get them out the doors, they were not used. They were not reassemblable, if that's your question, sir.
Okay.
They were
That's what I
treated
wanted.
as demolition debris.
Okay, I just want to know if they were,
Yes, sir.
when they were taken out, they were essentially destroyed.
They were
in the process of
destroyed to
getting
get
them
them out the door. And that's part of where, I guess yes, they were destroyed getting them out the door. They were supposed to all wind up in a dumpster. Only 2/3 of them wound up into a dumpster. The crew left the back and the dumpster got hauled away. Then I got a call, hey, they're still here, if you follow me. And it was like, the plan was to get them, and to board member Simone's point, they're gone now. Okay.
Okay.
The
So,
hazard.
right. So you said at one point that to finish removing them, it was at district cost. Why is that at district cost when it should have been taken care of previously?
All of the work on this project was at district cost, all of it, 3.9 million,
Okay,
if you
I'm
follow.
sorry.
me.
Yes,
And-
I get
and-
that. Okay.
And the contract, the agreement we had was the district would provide a dumpster. Let me explain how this works. The district would provide a dumpster when the contractor had his crew there, okay?
Okay.
The contractor had his crew there. That was being paid for. They loaded that dumpster. And then 3 days later, if anybody would like to confirm how the Skamania dumpster system works, they came and hauled it away. And by that time, I'd like a contracting crew also, if you follow me. So I
Okay.
would have had to pay to get them back and pay to bring a dumpster back. And it honestly didn't make sense for scrap, what was left there. So that's how that
All right.
that cycle of events worked. It was,
So we
just
should
a-
have gotten a second dumpster sooner or whatever and taken care of
well,
it
that second
earlier.
dumpster would have also cost another $1,000.
Well, I understand that, but then we wouldn't have had any of these issues if it had been
That's
taken
correct.
care of earlier.
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
You just nailed it. Had it all went in the dumpster like the original plan, there would not have been a, hey, who's doing what kind of thing here, because it was all scrap.
Right.
All right. And that's as honest as the day is long. And I'm just frustrated that anybody is taking it any
Okay.
differently than that.
Okay.
We're
Fair
just
enough.
trying to
Thank you
create a
for your
safe-
answer. Appreciate your
Okay.
time.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
finally, if I could, and any other questions on that? Because I'm happy to entertain it, but finally, if I could, in early December, in Dr. Pruitt's absence, we took it upon ourselves to help the school district filed an urgent repair grant with the state of Washington OSPI for the septic system out there, which is in failure mode or will be. And I spoke with Scott Black at OSPI on Friday, and they have not decided who to hand those grants out to yet. It was, again, the drop dead date was December 9th. I reminded Scott how much we appreciate all that they've done for Skamania so far. And hopefully we can, we'll be the beneficiary of that. However, if the district is not, and part of I'll be stepping away from Skamania. I'm a construction manager. I build, I finish, and then I go away. So I'm going to be doing that. But I don't ever like leaving schools hanging in things that are out there. ESD, I heard you mention it earlier. We're all about schools. We don't do strip malls. We don't do office buildings. We only do schools. And my construction division is the only one like it, probably, and I'm not overstating this, probably in the country, where we have an organization within an ESD that helps other school districts construct. And we are actually, our process, our program is actually hired out to the other 9 ESDs in the state. And my group helps build those schools. Anyway, that said, our schools are our mission, okay? And I wanted to make you aware that it is probably something that the board should consider. If the grant is not funded, to take a hard look at getting your septic system corrected. It was, we had no plumber in this last scope of work, didn't have a need for one. But had a plumber come out anyway. We looked at the septic system after we discovered it, and then had an evaluation done because some things caught my attention. And the firm that came out and did the evaluation had indicated that it was pretty close to collapse, failure mode. It still works. Don't panic. Nobody run for the hills. But it's time to, it's one of those things that needs to be taken care of. That said, I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Pruitt tomorrow with board approval here to reach out and advertise for a civil engineering firm to come take a look at the, to begin planning for the replacement of the septic system. Now, just putting it out there, and the only reason I'm saying that is I don't know when OSPI is going to give their grant. The only time you're going to be able to do any work on that playground is summertime, when it's dry and not muddy and the kids aren't there. And if the process isn't started now, you're going to miss summer 22 and have to start looking at summer 23. And you're just extending the how long will the system last question mark that'll be in anybody's head. So just put that out there. I'm not seeking the work, don't want it. I think that we can get a civil firm to do design and CA on that, construction administration on that. And like I said, I've already been in contact with a couple who do work, Hood River, Skamania, Bingen, and there, and they're ready to hear from the district in an advertisement. So if we do or don't, that's entirely up to y'all. I'm happy to help or happy to step back. I can do either.
Keith, if I could ask, what is the amount of the urgent grant request that you
I
made
don't
to
have it off,
OSBI?
I should have studied. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I think it's like 145,000.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, I apologize. Might be able to pull it up here. But I believe it was
worries,
100,
just
about
a-
145,000.
Okay, just
And
a
that
general number. was good.
included design fees and construction,
Okay,
and, that type of thing.
thank you.
And in the modern world, and I could talk all night long. It's my business. I'm sorry. In the current era, what it's going to cost is a wild card throw. Folks, I've never seen anything like it in my life. We're projecting 8-10% escalation year upon year. It used to be 2 to 3%. So these numbers we're starting to look at for construction are getting insane. So would it sooner the better? But again, priorities are where you put them.
Before we move on, I just wanted to mention the fact that in the chat, a fellow by the name of the Northman, whomever that is, did state that the bleachers were cut into small pieces, nothing could be assembled from the metal. That seems, I don't know what they know, but that's what they said. And if they're saying that, it seems obviously specific to not have personal knowledge of that.
It's Sean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Sean.
The Northman. Okay, now we know what his CV handle is. All right, I'll be quiet now. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll just kind of click out and let you finish your meeting.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank
Yeah,
you all.
no, thank you, Keith. I appreciate.
Appreciate you all. See you next time.
Okay, health and safety information, test to say program and COVID update. Heather.
Hey everybody. So we are participating in the Test to Stay program that is offered by the Department of Health, which helps shorten our quarantine times for our kiddos and staff members. So what that does is we provide rapid tests on site at Skamania. And if there is a close contact, we send home a letter letting them know you need to test this day and this day within 5 days, just so we're making sure we're not getting any symptoms in negative tests so kids can stay and staff can stay. It is not required. You do not have to participate in Test to Stay. If you want to quarantine at home for 10 days without the test, you're welcome to do that. This is just another option. We did see a steady increase in COVID cases last week. The numbers increased largely due to Omicron variant. The variant spreads extremely fast, as many of you know. Many of the cases have been asymptomatic or mild compared to previous variants such as Delta. Thankfully, our staff and students have done such a great job with wearing their mask and practicing safety measures to protect themselves and others to help stop the spread of COVID. Even though when we do start to see a decrease in COVID cases as the East Coast is seeing, we'll still need to err on the side of caution. Mask, wash our hands, everything that we've been doing. Like I said, our kids and staff have been doing so great and they've just rolled with the punches. Any questions? Oh, and our Test to Stay protocols are up on our website, and as the Department of Health updates those, will change.
Okay. Heather, you may have answered this already. I did notice on the PTO site there was some parents questioning all of this. This isn't their primary concern seemed to be that this permission, if they give permission now, that it would be used in the future and not be given a chance to consent for each individual test or, something like that. That kind of seemed to be where they were headed. Did you answer that on the PTO Facebook page or?
I did through Michelle Miller.
Okay.
The consent form is just so I have something to show the Department of Health if kiddos need to be tested. I cannot just go and grab a kid out of class and test them because they're sneezing. I still have to call a parent, but this just reduces the amount of emails I have to send and print out each time that needs to be tested. Like I said, with the consent forms that'll be sent out if there's a close contact, there'll be this date, January 24th and January 26th will be dates that your kid will need to be tested. And they can even write in, hey, I'm only approving January 24th and January 26th. That's
okay.
completely up to them. And like I said, it's completely optional. They can stay home. They don't have to test.
Okay. I appreciate that, Heather. Thank you for the clarity.
Any other questions for Heather? Thank you very much. On to new business action items, personnel. Ralph?
Yes, we have two individuals that have submitted resignations, teacher Shelley Carlton and office manager substitute Nicole Olson-Yacht. And we have a higher position to continue Dr. Jerry Lewis as admin support, temporary sub, approximately 2 6-hour days per week. In addition to that, long-term substitute we're proposing that it's extended. Stephanie Ober to fill that position due to the vacancy, due to the resignation.
Since we had a question earlier about payment for Dr. Lewis, do you want to address that item too?
Yes, so this position he'll be working on special projects like superintendent search, support our front office staff there's a shortage, and be on site when I'm out. Estimated cost is between 10 and 14,000 for the rest of the year. We have checked with finance, and we have contingency funds that can cover this.
And how many days a week is that anticipated?
Anticipate is approximately 1 to 2.
Full days or part days?
6 hours a day.
Okay, well, I thought Amber was back. I know she's back part-time, but does that really, if Nicole's leaving but Amber's back, does that really do we really still have a need or a vacancy there that we need help with? And as far as superintendent search, that is the board, not anybody else, in my opinion. That is, I mean, our number one assignment is to hire superintendent. So that kind of doesn't seem like that should be something that is done by a admin support, or even, sorry, you, Ralph. I mean, that's something for the board. So
Ralph, are you there 5 days a week?
4 days a week.
Okay, so there's not coverage with admin on 1 day a week?
Exactly.
Okay, so considering current circumstances, is that part of the thinking here? That
Yes,
it would be important to have admin on site?
that's
but
correct.
we haven't had I mean, you've been part-time for the whole 5 years you've been here. So why do we all of a sudden need that 5th day covered? And if, I mean, it strikes me as, I don't know, it doesn't seem necessary. If there's a legitimate reason for it, I'd be happy to approve, for the funding for that if it is needed. I just haven't heard anything yet that would tell me that it is needed, because we need to be fiscally responsible. We can't just create a job out of nowhere just because we like Jerry and we want to keep him around. So I'm just trying to be fiscally responsible here. That's part of our purview. So.
Well, Amber is back part-time, but she's not in the office.
Okay.
That's part of it.
And
I have a question.
Please.
Is there enough necessary work to keep Jerry around?
Well, we could certainly, under the circumstances, because of the current climate, I do feel like it's important to have an administrator on site when I'm not there. And we are trying to get ready. There's been, it's different than when I started 5 years ago.
The world is different.
The workload is different, and I'm doing 2 jobs, principal and superintendent.
Understood. But even at the beginning of this year, you were still just part-time. That is your position, that's your contract. And I don't know, I'm still not seeing the real, dire need to add another employee. So I don't know, that's just me. So if you guys determine that, yes, we need Jerry, then great, I will, I want, but I still haven't necessarily heard anything that we actually, desperately need him enough to create a new position.
I think he was kind of where he was telling us what he needed, why he was needing him.
Okay, sorry if I jumped in too soon. I apologize.
This is basically a substitute position. It's not a position.
And regarding the superintendent search, I wouldn't know where to begin to start advertising. I wouldn't know how to start advertising. The ESD is not doing that search process anymore, and they were doing it when we hired Ralph.
Well, I'd be willing to volunteer my time in doing a lot of that stuff. I know we got some really interesting options from some consultants, but it all looks like it would be doable in-house and fairly simply. I think we've got enough talent and on the board that we can. I don't believe we would really even need a consultant personally. I wouldn't mind volunteering my time and helping out with any of that. I mean, I think that, again, why pay somebody when you can do it for yourself? So maybe I'm just a cheapskate, but that's kind of how I tend to look at things.
And the next item on the agenda is actually discussion of superintendent search by Jerry.
Mhm.
I think traditionally the way you do it now, I don't think that, given if you were looking for a large swath of qualified candidates to try and find somebody now, I think you're kind of stuck going through like these types of searches now. I don't think it's not necessarily something you can just kind of do it yourself anymore. I'm not the expert on that, but that's kind of what I've looked into, and what I've found is that, I mean, if you really want to dig out there and try to find the best candidate possible, you're just kind of stuck spending the money. And I don't particularly care for it either. But I don't know how yourself anymore on these types of things, and find the essentially the perfect fit that you're looking for. And even then you're still maybe stuck, or I won't say stuck, but you still may be having your second or third or fourth option. And I just think this is the world we live in now, unfortunately.
It is a specialty, that is for sure, in recruitment. And I think particularly in the climate we're in now, I think it's going to be very difficult to find candidates. And so I think you may need the benefit of a consulting firm behind you to have those resources and being able to have a wide net to attract people.
Okay. Well,
it's also important to note that we are the needle in the haystack now. Skamania is the needle in the haystack. We're not. This isn't Portland looking for a school district. This isn't even Vancouver looking for a school district. This is Skamania. That they, at this point,
right.
We've got to have help finding them for us.
Well, okay, so let's say we hire the consultants or whatever, but do we really need Jerry to be a part of that? I mean, the consultant should deal with the board, and this should be on the board. That is, I mean, one of our main tasks mandated in the RCW. So, I mean, I still am not seeing necessarily where we need to add another person into the scenario. I mean, if we're going to do the consultants, fine, but I still am not really seeing where we need Jerry. I mean, sorry, I'm not, again, this is nothing against Jerry. I mean, I know we all like Jerry and we'd like to keep him around, but it really comes down to being fiscally responsible here, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Beth, the part of the search is I'm just presenting tonight the different options for the board to consider. So just to clarify that. So.
Okay.
Is a compromise to have Jerry there that 5th day, so there's admin representation at the school to deal with issues in the current circumstances, and have it be the 1 day a week, but open to if there's special projects that are approved?
Possibly, yeah.
And I think Ralph has some vacation time coming too.
Okay. Well, and not to like talk in particular about anybody, but is there, and maybe we can do it privately, but concerned about why Amber hasn't been back in the building. Is that, I know she's been on oxygen and stuff, but is that just because of her health, or is that because of mandates and different things like that that have,
This is a private personnel matter that should not be talked about publicly.
like I just said, that's fine. I'll belay that. I just wanted to bring it up because if we're already paying her, then, and she could come back, then, you know, that would fix this issue.
Well, why don't we divide this, since there's quite a bit of discussion on the hiring part, why don't we divide it into two aspects? One would be the approving the resignations, and then we could discuss the hiring. Does that sound agreeable with the members of the board?
Yes.
Then I would entertain a motion to accept the resignations that were submitted.
I would so move.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignations. Any discussion? Hearing none, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Did we have a second there?
I'll be the second. I was starting. I'm not sure that I was heard.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, continuing with the discussion of the hiring. This has been, from my perspective, a very challenging school year from this point up to this point in time. It has demanded an awful lot of time. Ralph was out for a good month for his medical condition, and Jerry stepped in gracefully as a substitute for Ralph. And I am firmly of the perspective that we do need administrative representation in the school every day. That's my 2 cents.
So are you looking at the a 1-day proposal weekly? Unless there were special projects of some kind that we approved.
At least 1 day a week, and special projects as needed. For instance, like I stated, Ralph is going to be taking some vacation, so we'd be covering for that. That's a special occasion. And I also see value in having some time where they're at the school together, discussing what's happening, what's forecast. And so I see some value in that, rather than just trying to do it by email.
Well, that could be done over phone or even Zoom too. I mean, we're proof of that right now.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, but the personal touch, like when you're actually there working and involved with it, and you're physically there with them and the students and the teachers, seems like, you know, that doesn't seem like something you can kind of phone in, unfortunately.
I agree.
Or Zoom in. So do we need to put this to a vote here and then move on? Do we need to move on to executive session to have a discussion about this personnel matter in private? Where are we? Because I think we've all kind of stated our positions, and so we either need to, sorry, let Angus be the board and I'll be quiet.
And remember there, Angus, remember there's also the long-term sub extension there as part of this one.
I understand.
So I would move that we we extend Stephanie Ober's position. And then we can discuss Jerry further, maybe in executive session or something, since that's kind of the one under debate.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
It's moved and seconded to extend Stephanie Ober's position as long-term substitute for the remainder of the school year. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. And with the board, is the board in agreement to continue this discussion for regarding Jerry Lewis and Amber in executive session, or?
Yes.
And Lisa, is that satisfactory with you?
Yes, it is.
Okay, then we'll carry this over to executive session. And we will be coming out of executive session to make the decision.
Okay. I need to check with tech support how to do that. Hold on just a minute.
Why don't
Well,
we go?
In the
10-minute
meantime, did
break?
we want to continue with the Head Start, or where are we at here?
Superintendent search.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the superintendent search is a information item, or no, it's an action item actually, and Jerry has a presentation.
So each board member should have received the two consulting firm, the information. Did everyone receive that information?
Yes.
And so the process is pretty much the same for both, but there's quite a price difference because we have one individual that's willing to really help the school out. So I'll start with Northwest Leadership Association. You had the summary of what that process looks like, which is the first step, developing a leadership profile. So the consultant will work with the board, and Beth, you're right. This is the board that does this. So the consultant will work with the board. They'll be surveying staff, community members, and developing that profile for the new superintendent. Then from that point, they'll also work on the advertising and candidate recruitment, which is developing the posting, the brochure that will go out, and then setting timelines and deadlines for that. When those applications need to be turned in, and then they'll help the board in the analysis of the candidates and screening, and then that will move to the interview process. How the board wants that. Usually it could be a 2-round interview process, and then the board making decisions on who the new superintendent will be. Northwest Leadership Association said their cost is between 10 and 12,000 to conduct that search. The second one, which is much more cost effective, because Dr. Milt Dennison, who is the superintendent in Mount Pleasant, also works for a search agency, Next Up Leadership. And he is willing to, as you saw in the board packet, he wants to help the district out in reducing that cost. And he outlined specific dates in the information you were given, starting, first part of February, working with the board, developing the scope of work, setting a calendar, and discussing how to get input from the staff and community, conducting a survey of candidate qualifications, and then going into the advertising phase about mid-February, and getting that posted. Next Up has a large bank of candidates that they are prospective candidates that they can post. It's as you saw in the information, over 40,000 nationwide. And then the recruitment phase, it goes into the recruiting and then screening and interview process. And because Milt's willing to pretty much donate his time, he said there may be some, but for the next up leadership part of it, the cost there anywhere from about $750 to $1,500 in that range of conducting that work. So it is the kind of the prime time to get this going and get that search underway. So questions?
Have you ever worked with either of these? And I'll put this to both Ralph and to Jerry. Have either of you worked with either Milt or the Northwest Associates before? Have any personal experience with it?
Yeah, well, I know several of the search consultants that they've had. In fact, Northwest Leadership was used for my replacement last year when I retired. So they took my former district through the whole process, did a great job. I know Ralph has more experience with Milt. So.
Yeah, I've worked with Milt. He's done some consulting for us at Skamania. I think you remember he did some board superintendent working agreements early on, and well-respected in the education community.
And I remember him from that point when he worked with the board, and also in a previous life when I was a business manager for school district in Oregon. I had the opportunity of working with him a little bit there, and I always found him to be top notch.
The one concern or issue that I want to make sure that, because it seems like Skamania is going to be a bit of a needle in the haystack, is that we can cast the largest possible net to find somebody. Will Milt be able to meet that need as well as Northwest, you think? Or comparatively good enough? Will he do the job good enough? Will he possibly cast a big enough net?
Well, the agency that he works with, again, Next Up Leadership, I talked to the owner of that company, and he has a large distribution list of getting information out. In fact, I was on that list. I would get these postings almost monthly, seemed like, in my years as a superintendent. So I know he gets the word out. So.
And I know nowadays, Donald, a lot of it's online anyway, so people all over the country can be looking at what's available in all the states. So as long as it's advertised well and accurately, you should be in, good stead.
Yeah, I did look up the company on their website once we had that information, and I think Northwest would do a sufficient job. So.
And I did touch base with their owner, and he said that they do have the capacity to do the work. So.
No, I was not looking at Northwest. I was looking at Next Up Leadership.
Oh, Next Up. I mean,
right?
Yeah, I looked at both of them, but I did mean Next Up, not Northwest. Sorry.
Okay. Because Next Up is Milt, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would rather go with Milt as well.
He's a great guy.
I would be willing to entertain a motion.
Let's hire Milt.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to hire Milt Dennison, Next Up Leadership, to conduct the superintendent search. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. I just wanted to say, if that is the case, what is our next step? Does the board reach out to him?
He'll reach out to the
organization?
He'll reach out to the board once.
Okay.
Now that you're approving it, Ralph will let him know that it's a go. So,
Okay, then continue on, Agnes.
Okay, any other discussion? Then all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item is Head Start preschool proposal.
Did you want to go into executive session now or later?
Later,
Okay,
we'll continue with the agenda as stated, which means going through all items and then executive session at the end.
okay.
And Ralph, or I mean, Agnes, was this about the service agreement or is this the lease agreement for Head Start?
I will let Ralph address this.
Okay,
Yeah, so this is basically, so they came to me a while back. I've mentioned it in some of my board notes to you about their interest, and wanted us to approve it for a February start. They've since come back and said that they may not need it after all. And so it would be more of a, do you have questions after looking at these contracts? It would be both the food service and the renting of the space. And so it's more of a discussion about the pros and cons of this, any questions that you might have. It's not an action item.
I was just
Has the
surprised.
lawyer looked at all this stuff?
Go ahead, Donald.
Has the district lawyer looked at all these contracts and said yay or nay to any of them?
We did not get that far.
Yeah, the rent seemed pretty low, which, I mean, if we're offering them a space, I thought that was fairly generous, Ralph, so I did like that. And then they seem like they would have to be put in quite a bit as far as you know, a lot of work on their end too. Is their items that they are wanting us to deal with? Is that why they may be not wanting to come to us, or is there
No, it was from their end. It was issues on their end related to COVID and other logistics. Didn't have anything to do with us, Beth.
Okay, it just, reading through that contract, just seemed to be a lot of stuff that they were gonna have to do.
They had already agreed that they were going to do.
Oh, okay. All right, just curious.
and we had a similar program in Washougal. And this is much like the agreement there and how they have to have their classrooms be set a certain way. I think there was some language in the lease agreement that we might want to be clear about. I know at the very beginning, the description of the premises, they do need to have a playground area that's approved for pre-K. They can't be on playgrounds that are 5 and up. And I don't know how ours is designated. Typically it is elementary school, it's 5 and older. Also, I think it would be good to understand, I was gonna say, in Washougal, we did a partnership for a playground area. We provided land and fencing, and then they provided the apparatus or the equipment. And so that was a way for, we probably have the land and maybe have fencing we can use, but they are able to have the apparatus and put in, and it was permanent structures. And so also you have your TK students that would be able to use that as well, because they most likely or should not be using the 5 and older playground equipment either. Use of the premises, I was thinking we'll want to clarify. I'm not sure what the hours are for their program, but be clear if it's late starts, if it's snow days, are they here on our non-attendant school days? We want to be sure, does the facility need to be open? Does it need to be accessible? Are they mirroring, our school calendar? Because that would impact food service as well.
Good thoughts, Lisa.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely. Thank you.
And then I didn't know, I mean, it may be redundant, but down where it had the rent, where it had it monthly, I didn't know if it should also say for the contract term, because I don't know if there'd be any.
Yeah, exactly.
thing they'd be doing once school is out. Usually they come in at the end of the school year and they clean and they have to move, equipment, move everything in the classroom so it can be cleaned. So sometimes they're there over the summer as well. So we just want to see, do we have to have personnel on site too if they're there, or not? But just to clarify.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, if they come back to us, if they do want to pursue it, then we'll go forward. But otherwise, it's kind of been a holding pattern, right?
That's correct.
I like the idea of being able to snatch a few extra kids.
Mhm.
Once school gets, once they get up to, 5 and 6 and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then since it's on hold, we don't need to do much on the food service, I guess, but I had a couple items on that portion as well, but that can be addressed if the time comes that we need to provide
Yeah.
that service.
That would be real helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a easy transition to have these little guys just kind of filter their way into the school.
Mhm.
So I
And
would
just
hope,
like
I hope they do come back to us.
I do too, and the idea of the equity of every student that needs it to have access to early learning is key.
Yeah. Okay, next item, board members, format of board meeting discussion.
This me. So I proposed that we meet in person again. I had been talking to Angus about that, and he forwarded an email I sent to him to our attorney, Paul Clay, and Paul got back to me. And as long as we can follow the proclamations of Governor Inslee, he said there was no reason why we couldn't, as long as we're following the rules. And I believe we have the space. I'd be willing to come in early and set things up. My days as PTO president, I know where most everything is still. I wouldn't, and I know how to set up the sound system and stuff. So we could still do Zoom too. I just been hearing a lot of comments from the public, asking why we're doing Zoom instead of in person anymore. And, they a lot of comments along the lines of they feel it would be more transparent of us to meet in person again.
What is the difference in transparency being in person versus being on Zoom?
From what the comments I've been hearing is that, they feel like with the Zoom, there's more control and potentially not being able to see who's attending and not being able to, and my personal issue was with an RCW that I found that stated we're not allowed to take personal information as a prerequisite to attending in a meeting. And so since Zoom requires us to register, to use the Zoom application, you have to register with Zoom and use the, and give at least some personal information. And so since we were choosing to use Zoom, I kind of took it as that's, it seemed to me that we could be in violation of that RCW because to use the application, you do have to give up some information, and that is a requirement to use the application. So therefore, we're requiring that information to attend, and that's, not okay. That's, directly against the RCW. And so that was kind of where all that conversation started, at least for my part. But Paul Clay said that there was nothing about using Zoom that violates that, which I still don't really understand, because I mean, it still seems like that is a violation of that RCW, but if our attorney is saying it's not, then fine. But that is kind of where all this is, and I would like to see us go back to in-person format.
May I have a,
Go ahead, Donald.
well, you click on down where it's participants, you can see the panelists and the attendees. There's, and I'm not calling them out specifically, but there's several that are initials. Then there's the notorious Northman we talked about earlier. That you don't necessarily have to know who these people are. And so that's up to them, as far as what information they want to provide. And so, but then as far as, I like the idea of in person too, but I think, Omicron is like, peaking between here and the next month. Let's, I think things may, and hopefully things will end up being just fine. There won't be any problems at all. And we'll wish we had done it in February and had our in-person meetings back in February. But ultimately it may be better to delay that until, and say, we'll look at it at March once we're through whatever this peak of Omicron is, which everyone seems to think is going to be sometime in February. And I mean, there's going to be a safety issue that, no one wants to be that person who somehow got sick someplace or got someone else sick, more importantly.
But we do have the room. We can put chairs 6 feet apart, 3 feet apart, whatever it currently is. And we can, if for public comment, we can set up microphone with markers, 3-6 feet apart. I mean, we can conduct the meeting appropriately to let, we don't have to put anybody in danger. I mean, even with the way things are and with the rise of the Omicron variant, it still can be done safely. We have lots of room.
Let me point out two things. You were saying have person and Zoom. In order for the participants that are there in person to see what's happening on Zoom, they would have to have a computer there to look at. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to hear what's going on Zoom. And second thing is, and this is going along with what Donald said, we're currently in Skamania County averaging 14 cases a day. And we still only have 38% of all ages vaccinated. And in the state of Washington, that is 70%. So we're just barely half of what the state of Washington is as far as vaccinations. And so there's a great susceptibility out there for people getting Omicron.
But even if you're vaccinated, you can still get it. I mean, my best friend, fully vaccinated, she's been out of work with Omicron for over 14 days. She's still symptomatic. I mean, it doesn't.
Which I think, Beth, is another reason not to promote gathering at this time. I would have to agree with Donald. I'm not interested, nor am I going out and gathering right now for other events or other work. And that's my choice. But it's almost to your point, even though I'm fully vaccinated and boosted, I know I'm still accessible or susceptible. And so I don't choose to put myself in a position to be around other people. Skamania has the second lowest vaccination rate, Skamania County, for the state. And so I'm not sure that we can say that we could all gather safely. Board meetings aren't 15-minute occasions.
Well,
you
but
would
that's
be
my
together for a period of time.
But that's my point, is that being vaccinated doesn't necessarily prevent anything. So vaccinated or unvaccinated, those numbers don't really mean anything to me, because I mean, you can still carry it, and you can still, be affected by it.
Yeah, and be hospitalized. That's the distinction, is the unvaccinated and the hospitalization rates, which is the biggest concern.
Well, even breakthrough cases like my best friend, I mean, she's been in the hospital. I mean, this has been, it's not to say, and she's not the only one. I mean, there's breakthrough cases and people talking about the breakthrough cases constantly on the radio and TV and everywhere. I mean,
I think the vast majority of people who are getting severely ill are people who are unvaccinated. I think that's not really subject to dispute. The people who are dying are the ones who are not vaccinated, and many people here are still not vaccinated. And personally, even though I would much prefer to shake everyone's hands and be in the same room with everybody, because I think it would take a lot less time and we could actually respond to each other more effectively. And I don't like this. This is not my idea of the most effective way of doing this. But that doesn't mean that this is probably not the most necessary of conducting this business today for now. And hopefully, maybe at the February Zoom, we can look at it, we can figure out where we are with the Omicron, and hopefully we can come back in March. I would rather we didn't have any of this stuff. But regrettably, I mean, this, you know, I'm not willing, and I don't think it's appropriate for me to create a scenario or to take part in the creation of a scenario which would unnecessarily put people at risk. Whereas this right now is a situation where essentially it has zero risk, even though it is a truncated way of conducting business. And so I don't like it. That doesn't mean it's not necessary. And I'd rather do virtually anything else. But you know, I don't think we can exactly. Would be nice if we could do it outside, but I don't think that's even necessarily a good idea because it's cold and wet and raining and dark.
Well, we live in the Northwest, so it's always that way.
Well, I understand, and I'm perfectly okay with that. But you know, that's I think.
No, I know. It's just we have notoriously bad Wi-Fi and internet out here too, and that's kind of been a comment I've heard from the public as well, that it's not fair to those that don't have, you know, access to, I pay for as high a speed as I can get, but not everybody can afford that. So, you know, it's I don't know. It is also an equity thing of trying to make sure that we are available to everybody, and our sound system can be set up to where those attending via Zoom at the in-person meeting or whatever could hear and know what's going on too. So
I think we're at a make and do situation, and that's where we are. It's a whole lot of make and do with the best we can do.
Beth, how would you feel if we put it off for a month, see what the infection rate is and what our health conditions are in a month?
As long as we're still open to considering it, that's fine. I just don't want to close the door on that.
I'm happy to reconsider this every month as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Thanks, Don.
Okay, so we will be considering it every month. And at this time, the board will be going into executive session. It is 8:04.
And Sarah, would you explain how this works, please, to the board?
Yes. So did you already send the link out?
Yes, each of the board members should have received a link.
Okay, so you can go ahead and leave this webinar and join that meeting. And then when you're done with the executive session, you can use that same panelist link that you used to join this one.
Okay, so when we leave this one, where will we go?
To your email, there should be a link
Okay.
from Ralph.
All right, it is 8:04. My suggestion is we take about a 5-minute break, resume at 10 after 8, and then we will come out of executive session back into public session at 8:30. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
And Ralph, I'll be bringing the packet up to the office about 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
I'm gonna refill my water bottle or my water glass real quick. I'll be right back.
There she comes. Hi, Beth.
All right, can you see and hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I'm on my phone.
Okay.
All right,
And Donald just ran to get some water, so he'll be back in just a second and we'll continue. Mm. Well, the wind is really howling down here.
Is it?
Yeah.
Hydrated and ready to go?
Yeah, you should all drink more water.
Okay, we're back out of executive session into regular meeting session. And have one item remaining, and that's the long-term substitute. I'm sorry, the administrative support temporary substitute, Dr. Jerry Lewis, 2 6-hour days per week. We did discuss this in executive session, and I'm willing to entertain a motion.
I would move to hire Mr. Jerry Lewis for the 2 days a week that is requested.
And I second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve hiring Dr. Lewis as administrative support for 2 6-hour days per week. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, is there any other item?
The only item I wanted to bring up is the chat window. I have 5, this is my work setup right now, so I have 5 screens going right now, which means I can actually see everything all at once, unlike probably anybody else. And so it was probably inappropriate. I think it was inappropriate for me to I'll keep reading the chat window, but it was inappropriate for me to take a piece from that and respond to it and reference it directly. Because it makes the entire meeting an open forum. And so I don't want anyone to think that they're being ignored here, and I'll keep looking at the window and reading it, but I don't think it was appropriate for me to, and I know it wasn't appropriate for me to look at that, respond to that in the course of the meeting. And that's my fault. I should not have done that. And I regret that, but I will keep reading it anyway, just because I think it's important to read that.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Then at 8:41, the meeting.
Sorry. Hold on, Angus.
Oh.
I'd like to publicly apologize to Ralph. It was not my intention earlier to outright call him a liar. I was just trying to state my feelings about the situation. And so I'm sorry.
Thank you, Beth. I appreciate it. These are challenging times.
Yep, that they are. All right. Well, thank you very much for actually a pretty good board meeting, I thought. Yeah, there was some
It's
interesting.
my first, so I don't know. Was it good?
There was some interesting discussion. Yes.
Indeed.
Lot to discuss.
Yes.
All right. Well, good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night,
we move
everybody.
All right,
Do we
thank you.
move to adjourn or
Yes,
Yeah.
I move to adjourn.
I second? All right,
And
Beth,
moved and seconded to adjourn.
All right, everybody. I
Good night.
third.
Hey.
Good night.
Say good night, Gracie.